What's going on, everybody? So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I just wanted to say this channel is presented by After Dark Sports and Browns After Dark. Please be sure to check out Browns After Dark every Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us at Browns After Dark on Twitter. What's up, guys? I have an exciting announcement for you today. I can now officially say that I am proud to be partnered with the Offside Sports Network. You might be asking yourself, well, what does that mean? Well, nothing on this channel is really going to change as far as what you see and hear, but this is going to open the door to more opportunities for things such as more shows, podcasts, merch down the road, sponsorships, and it's going to allow you to be a part of a fantastic community. I am very happy to be involved and partnered with the Offside Sports Network. Be sure to go check out the Discord if you would like. People in there nonstop just about every day. It's a fantastic community you're going to want to be a part of. So be sure to check out the Discord and follow Offside Sports Network on Twitter.
All right. Welcome back to the Browns Beat podcast. My name is Tristan and I'm with...
I am Derek, and this is the IR version of the Browns Beat podcast. I got a separated shoulder. Tristan's coming off of
foot surgery.
You're dealing with, your foot surgery. So, I mean, we are hanging on by a thread here today. But before we get started, two things. First of all, shout out to Slark on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have noticed a little bit of a rebrand. I also posted some of the alternate logos that he made for me, so those will be rotated throughout the year as the seasons go on. So big shout out to him. Potentially merch down the road. Can't promise anything, but you know, it's in the works. And the other thing I just wanted to say to start off, and Tristan's gonna say something about this as well. You know, there's new Deshaun stuff coming out daily, and if you guys watch this channel, I don't really like to talk about it, and I've kind of limited talking about Deshaun even as a player, just because there's too much involved with it. I mean, legally, you got to let things play out, and that's its own process. The NFL side of things, they are investigating, and I believe they're done, so that will come sometime soon. And we don't know what's the truth, how much of it is true. It's just, there's no sense in sitting here debating something that really nobody for sure other than him and I guess the people who were directly affected or not affected, they're the only ones who know. So I know there's new stuff, and you might be thinking, well, this is a Browns podcast. Why aren't you talking about it? I'm not going to waste my time with it. But Tristan, you got anything on that?
Yeah. So real quick, actually, before I get into the Sean stuff about your logos, I saw the logos that you put out. They're all really clean. I really liked, I think it was like a Miami Vice look where it was like a blue and pink. That was real clean. I like that one.
That's the Cavs one, that orange.
That's the Cavs one? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
If you look close from far away, it kind of looks pink, but
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. And, you know, getting into Deshaun, you know, when it comes to Deshaun Watson in this situation, you know, at the end of the day, this is a sports podcast. We want to talk about sports. We want it to be light. However, you know, we should at least address that it's happening, it's ongoing, you know, and that's what we're doing right here. But I think right now it's a bit too premature for us to give our opinions on it. I think that, you know, both of us, I think we'll probably have more of a educated answer, more of a I guess more of a background of what we're talking about when the suspension is handed down, when the NFL puts out what they're going to put out as far as what they know, and all of that stuff. When all of that stuff comes out, I think we'll be able to potentially talk about it more. But you know, it is a sports podcast. We want to keep it light. We acknowledge what's going on. We're sympathetic, and we are, you know, hopeful that the process plays out as it should, and that an equal and fair judgment is placed upon Deshaun, the Browns, the Texans, everybody. You know, we're hopeful that whatever happens, whatever comes out of it, it's fair and it's equal for everybody involved. I think we can agree to that.
Yep. Absolutely.
So yeah, and then moving on into today's episode, we did want to talk about so the big thing for today's episode is going to be that we're going to go through each and every single game on the calendar this year. We're going to give our predictions. We're going to go through game by game, kind of analyze, see, hey, do we think we can win? What if we lose? How could we lose? How could we win? Stuff like that. We're going to go through week by week onto the schedule. But before we get into that, we did want to talk about a couple things. So Dearness Johnson re-signing with the Browns. It's a 1-year deal. I don't have the contract details in front of me, but I can pull them up. But I do know
$1 million and change. I think it's like 1.25 or something.
Yeah, it's something like that. I'll pull up the details, but Derek, why don't you kind of get into the Dearness Johnson signing as a whole? Like, what does it mean for the Browns bringing him back?
Well, I've heard a couple different opinions on this. And it's kind of interesting how people see things in different ways. But as far as how I saw it when it first happened, I was a bit surprised. And then I did see the number and I was kind of like, okay, it makes sense to me. What I think this is essentially, no disrespect to him, but I almost see it as trade bait, to be honest. I feel like it is a deal to where the Browns can use him in the preseason and camps. Keep in mind, there's obviously going to be, throughout camp where teams come in and practice with us, and that's more of a chance for, that other team. I forget who we got this year, but to see some of these players who might not make it up close. Um, so I feel like this Dearness Johnson signing, in my opinion, is more so, hey, we're gonna keep you on this cheap deal. We're gonna look to trade you, let you show your stuff like you did last year throughout the camp and preseason, and then I think he's gone. I can't really see him on this roster. I think it's Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, obviously, and then Jerome Ford, and I think Demetric Felton could potentially sneak in if they count him in the wide receiver room as well. But if not, I think he might be a protected practice squad guy. But that's just me. Tristan, what do you think?
Yeah, so to feed in real quick about what you were saying about Demetri Felton, he actually has been getting work in with the receivers in OTAs.
Right.
So, the way that the Browns talk about him, specifically Demetri Felton, I see I don't see a way that they're getting rid of him, especially because he's still on his rookie deal. It's a really cheap deal. He's like a 6th-round pick, I think. So what he's given us in production has been worth that of like a 6th-7th-round pick. So I doubt he gets cut. But no, I had a very similar feeling about the Dearness Johnson deal. I really like Dearness Johnson. I think he's a hell of a football player. He deserves the opportunity to start somewhere. He proved last year that, when we needed to lean on him, he was there. There were multiple games where, we had Chubb and Hunt hurt, or one of them hurt, if not both of them. And he had to step up and fill in a role for a team that's a run first team. And he was able to do it. I mean, obviously when people bring him up, it's the Broncos game on Monday Night Football. We talk about him in that game specifically, but the work he did outside of that one game was fantastic. When he filled in as a role guy, there were times where, you didn't even notice. Like, there were times I felt like, oh, you know what? I didn't realize that Kareem Hunt, got the tape down his arm, like it was like that. It was a seamless fit. So he's a mega talented, and, I almost think it would be a shame if he was still on the roster for this next season. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd be happy because he's a very talented football player, but he deserves an opportunity to start somewhere. And Jack Duffin, I'm going to shout him out again. I shout him out a lot here. He's fantastic. Please follow him on Twitter. He posted that Over the Cap finally got a hold of Dearness Johnson's contract numbers, and essentially the way that the way that the language of the contract, the way that it's being paid out. The base salary is high. The signing bonus is not too high at all. It's pretty dirt cheap, $151,000. So that way, if we ended up trading him, we'd only have $151,000 in dead cap. Based on the way that the Browns have done all of their deals for players that they plan on playing, it's been high signing bonus, low base salary. So that way they have a low cap number. So I think that the way that they worded the contract as far as money goes, I have a tough time believing that they're planning on keeping him. I think what's going to happen is, and it happens every year, there's going to be a team where they have injuries at the running back position. And in the preseason or during camp, there's going to be somebody who gets hurt. Last year, there were a bunch of guys. There were the two Baltimore guys. I believe Christian McCaffrey got hurt during camp. There were a couple of other starters out there that picked up injuries. So I believe that come week one, he's going to be on a different roster, and Browns will probably get back like a fourth or a fifth round pick at best. I think he's got incredible trade value. I think he's a valuable asset. However, because he's on a 1-year deal, he's not worth the 3-year or the third round pick or anything that we could possibly get from him. And I just think he deserves an opportunity somewhere else. And I believe that Jerome Ford and Demetric Felton are more attractive to the Browns to keep because they are on cheaper deals long term.
Yep, exactly. I think that for me, it's the biggest, factor in this because Jerome Ford being a rookie, he's already lighting it up in camp and OTAs and stuff like that, per the reports that have come out in the clips. And we talked about it. He is Kareem Hunt's replacement long term. And then Demetric Felton, like we've said a few times, he's shown flashes. And you could say that, well, he wasn't that great. Well, I don't think he necessarily got a fair chance. And again, you're talking about a 6th-round rookie. So you like that young potential, deeper into your depth chart with obviously Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And while we're talking about this running back room, Tristan, I've seen a lot of people say that Kareem Hunt is going to be moved. I personally do not see that at all. I think he is very valuable for the Browns over somebody like a Demetric Felton for this next year. Or not Demetric Felton, I'm sorry. Dearness Johnson. What do you think about Kareem Hunt?
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I think when it comes to Kareem Hunt in particular, like the motive behind moving him, in my opinion, I don't think it makes sense to move him. I think that the value that we would get back, at best, we're looking at a third round pick. Running backs are just not valuable, especially running backs on a 1-year deal. So I really don't see the value in trading Kareem Hunt, especially when, there have been times where he's needed to be better than Nick Chubb in a game because Nick Chubb's been, Nick Chubb deals with stacked boxes. And there's some games where Nick Chubb's just not firing like that, and he, for those games, has stepped up and he's produced. I think of the Bears game this past season, where it felt like Nick Chubb couldn't even get 2 or 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And then Kareem Hunt just absolutely explodes. He had an amazing game, including I think it was like a 30-yard TD run to seal the game. So,
Yep.
You get a lot of value out of Kareem Hunt. And not only that, but he's a really great guy in the locker room. The guys love him. Nick Chubb, he's like Kareem Hunt's the only guy that can get Nick Chubb to talk. So I think the value of what Kareem Hunt brings is more value to the team than what we would get in a trade. And I also think that while Dearness Johnson, he played well last year, I think what he provides more than Kareem Hunt is not much more. And I think that you can get, like I said, the 4th or 5th round pick for Dearness Johnson when, you could get a 3rd round pick for Kareem Hunt. I think that it makes more sense to get the 4th or 5th round for Dearness Johnson, in my opinion. So I acknowledge the rumors. I can see why some people would think that, but for me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing, just kind of wrapping up this topic with, looking at the running back room, obviously Chubb's going to be your guy long term, but people looked at that Kareem Hunt signing way back when and said, okay, he's only going to be here for, I believe it was 2 year deal when he signed at that time.
It was a 1-year.
1 year. And everybody thought, okay, he'll be gone after that. And he stayed. And I think a lot of people are assuming after this year, he's going to be gone after that. I would not be surprised if Kareem Hunt ended up signing a 1 or 2 year deal to stay in Cleveland. Yes, I know he's a running back. Yes, I know, the lifetime of a running back in the NFL is short. And I agree, he should get his money if he can. but he is a Cleveland guy. He has stated that he wants to play here. So Jerome Ford, yes, he's shown great flashes, and that's the hope that he can be the next Kareem Hunt for us. But at the same time, I wouldn't write it off that Kareem Hunt is leaving soon. In a year or two, maybe, but I I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, and I can get behind that. I think that Kareem Hunt, he clearly loves being a Brown, and we want players that love being around in this building. And again, his relationship with Nick Chubb is fantastic, and I think he provides a lot of value to the team. Uh, I would say in my opinion, it's most likely he leaves just because I think it's one of two things. I think the Browns are going to be in a spot where they're going to try to save as much cap as possible starting next year because of the big contracts they did sign, even though the cap's a myth. We can manipulate the cap. We all know
Yeah,
this,
ask
right?
the
But
Rams about that.
yeah, exactly. So,
Jeez.
you can manipulate the cap, but still I think the Browns, especially with drafting Jerome Ford, I think that they are planning on him leaving. My question isn't necessarily of if the Browns wanted him back, I'm confident they could strike up a deal. My question is, would the Browns rather promote Jerome Ford and Demetric Felton? That's my question. And would they rather spend the extra money elsewhere? That's more of where my question comes into all of this. But and especially it is also going to depend a lot on what does Jerome Ford look like in the limited snaps he's going to get this year, because he'll get snaps. We'll see him. But is he going to be, essentially what Dearness Johnson was last year, where he's a guy where you can see, like, okay, if needed, we can rely on him. I think that could also be a huge, huge question when it comes to, a Hunt re-signing. I think there's a lot of factors involved, but definitely a possibility. But with that being said, with all of the Kareem Hunt talk being done, and I guess just addressing all of the actually, no, sorry, I almost forgot. There's also another rumor kind of going around that the Browns are interested in getting Odell Beckham Jr. back. So, Derek, I don't know how to feel about this one. Why don't you tell me how I should feel?
Well, I kind of don't know how to feel either, to be honest. I mean, I I was one of the people, I think, like all of us Browns fans, who lost their voice the night that John Dorsey traded for Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, it didn't work out, at least to the hopes that, we had at the time when we got him. But I do think he is still a productive player. I think, when he was in Cleveland on his way out, I was kind of the assumption of, like, and I know you've said this before as well, just get him out. Just move on. It's not worth it. But when you see what he can do as a number two receiver, when Robert Woods went out and it was down to Cooper Cup and Odell Beckham Jr., especially in the Super Bowl and that playoff run, um, it was pretty interesting, because you had somebody who, how good can he be? And he kind of showed it. He was on pace to be Super Bowl MVP. Um, and who knows? But as far as him coming back to the Browns, he would not be the number one receiver. I think Amari Cooper is still better than OBJ. And I'm not just saying that because we have him now, but I think they'd work well together. Now, with that being said, you wouldn't be able to get him till later in the season. He's got yet another injury. Um, is that worth it? Just depends. Just depends. And I know we weren't going to talk about it, but you got to factor it in. I mean, if Deshaun Watson plays or not is going to factor in on a Odell Beckham decision. So I can't say for a fact that this is true. Now, if everything was going well and in the later of the season for the Browns, they were really successful and looking to make a real push deep into the playoffs, why not? I would do it. Why not?
Yeah, and honestly, for me, it comes down to, uh, you know, Deshaun. His situation, like you said, is he suspended? How long? All that stuff. And, it comes down to, I think in camp, we're going to see if Anthony Schwartz is ready to step up. I know David Bell's been taking some reps with the first team as well. So, I almost think that when it comes specifically to OBJ, I think it's interesting because if he has a relationship with Deshaun, I think it would make sense. I think, there's a lot of players that really loved OBJ. They talk about how great of a mentor he was and how great he was in the locker room. I know a lot of fans, and even myself, when we were on the outside looking in last year, you know, there was a time where I still felt like all the problems with the Browns were because of OBJ. That was quickly brushed aside when OBJ left. But I myself had to kind of take a look in the mirror and realize that no, it's just that the quarterback that I really loved was just not it was just not good enough. And so, if the problems were entirely Baker Mayfield, right? If the front office still sees OBJ as a guy who could be a number two receiver and who can be an elite number two receiver and help us win a Super Bowl, then, why not? Like you said, I think it really comes down to, is OBJ wanting to come back, and does Deshaun Watson feel as though does Deshaun Watson feel as though OBJ would be the guy to like create an electric chemistry with and to help us get over the hump? Because I know there's going to be rookies, there's going to be young guys that have their chance in camp, and even for the first half of the year, because OBJ is still going to be hurt. However, let's say that we look at that receiving core and we say, you know what, there's some guys that have some talent, but they're not quite there yet. I don't want that to be a thing that prevents us from winning a Super Bowl if the opportunity becomes available. So I think I think right now, I don't think it makes sense. I don't think this offseason it would make sense to bring him in, at least right now, until minicamp is at least majority of the way over. And it might not even make sense to bring him in until middle of the season. I think, if it's going to happen, I think it makes sense best that way, because you're going to give your young guys the opportunity to win the job. And if they don't do it, well, you know what? OBJ, he's going to be coming off of injury. The guys here love him. You know what? It'll be a boost to everybody. Bring him in. So that's the way I see it working out best. But if it were to happen, but to be honest, I just don't see it. I think the way that things went last year, I think it's going to come down to OBJ is going to be picking between a couple of teams, whether we're in that mix or not. And I think because of our past relationship with him and the relationship with the fans and the fan base, I think it honestly is probably going to prevent it. I think he's ready to close the chapter on here. But who knows, if he feels like we're going to give him the best chance to win another ring, hey, why wouldn't he come? So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting though, for sure. I don't think in his best interest, right? He wants to win a ring. I think in his best interest, it's best for him to wait until he's ready to come back. And then when he's ready to come back, okay, who wants me on their team? Who can win a Super Bowl right now based on what they've proved? I think that's what's going to come down to. But
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts on OBJ?
No, I would just say for people who are immediately upset at the thought of him coming back, it's not like he's going to be able to play anytime soon, regardless. So there's no sense of, getting worked up over something that's not really even going to matter right now. So just wait and see. I mean, there's so much that's got to play out.
Yeah, we're probably like, if it's to happen, we're probably like 6 months away from it.
Absolutely.
So we've got time before this would happen, in my opinion. But all right, so that concludes the news cycle that we were going to be running through. Now we're going to be running through the team schedule for the season. We're going to give our predictions, and we are going to start week 1 at potentially Baker Mayfield's new home, Carolina Panthers, on September 11th, Sunday at 1 p.m. against Carolina. I would say this. I think with Baker, and if they ended up getting Baker and let's hypothetically say Deshaun's not there, it is possible that we could end up taking the L there. I think they have a lot of young, talented defensive pieces. I really like their team. I really like Jeremy Chin. I really like JC Horn, Brian Burns, the D tackle out of Auburn that they've got there, Derek Brown, I think is his name. He's solid.
Yep,
And we've seen plenty of Baker Mayfield. We know that, if you have a defense that can ball out or at least play decently, and he's going to have DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. So there's a chance that they could pull out the dub, but I don't trust that they could win with either Sam Darnold or whoever rookie they put in or whoever. I don't trust that they could beat us in our defense with that talent. So at the quarterback position. So, I personally would be predicting a Browns win here, but I wouldn't be too entirely shocked if we lost. If Deshaun Watson's there week 1, there's no chance we should lose that game. Not at all. But, because of the quarterback position, potentially what Carolina could do at the quarterback position, it's possible. So what are your thoughts, Derek?
Yeah. Okay. So like you said, with Deshaun, it's a game you should absolutely win. And, that's not a slight against, anybody else. I think that Carolina defense is actually pretty good. I think JC Horn is a beast.
Oh, absolutely.
Coming off of an injury, we'll see. He might take a little bit of time to kind of get back into, shake that rust off, get back into not game shape, but game readiness, get back to taking those hits and, getting right back up. So
being at NFL speed. Yeah,
exactly. So I feel like with Deshaun, yes, that's a game you should win. With Jacoby Brissett, and I'm glad we are talking about this because I wanted to bring this up. There's kind of the notion out there that Jacoby Brissett is a terrible quarterback. I watched a lot of Brissett film this morning, and the one thing that I noticed is that he can be, I don't know how to say this. I guess he can make plays would be the best way to say it. He's somebody who is kind of a more traditional quarterback where at his size, he can stay back in the pocket, but he has pretty solid pocket mobility. I like how he shifts around, steps up into throws. He's not somebody who you want to completely rely on by any means, but in the offense that the Browns have, and this is what people don't understand, with Deshaun being suspended for however long it is, whether if it's a year, 8 games, 6 games, whatever, the Browns are going to play Cleveland Browns football. They're going to rely on their defense, who got even stronger. They're going to rely on the run game. Outside of that, you are going to see the traditional Browns offense, a lot of play action, a lot of, working the middle of the field. Hopefully Brissett can open things up downfield as well. He does have a cannon. Excuse me, but I feel like the Browns are going to play normal Cleveland Browns football. So as far as this game goes against the Panthers, with Jacoby, I do think it's close. And you also got to factor in it's week 1. So I'm going to say that one it's a win, but I think it's a close game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, and then we've got week 2 against the New York Jets, one of the more historic rivalries we've ever had. Usually when we play the Jets, at least a solid game. They always give us a good fight. So for this year, personally, whether it's Brissett or Watson quarterbacking, in my opinion, we have to beat these guys. I think, and this is not a disrespect to the Jets. I love the offseason that they had. I felt like they added all-star players, Pro Bowl caliber players, some even all-pro players at solid positions. However, you got a year 2 quarterback, you got a rookie receiver, young guys there. And when you've got a veteran team like the Cleveland Browns do, where it's a lot of veterans, a lot of players that have been here, done that, in my opinion, you got to win this game. You have to. The Jets are too young and, not in that championship window yet, in my opinion, to lose this game, whether you have Deshaun or Jacoby in here. I think the Browns will come out and win just because I think that our defensive line is going to give them big problems. I think, when it comes to a young quarterback, when you play against a guy like a Myles Garrett, it's tough because he's going to get to you and he's going to get to you quick. When you've got a guy like Jadeveon Clowney at the other end, it makes it even harder. So I just think that this game, you need to expose Zach Wilson being young. You need to do it. So I'm going to trust the Browns defense and the Browns D-line to do it. And I'm going to say that the Browns take home the dub here. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you said there. I think the Jets, man, this offseason, especially the draft, I'm going to get made fun of and called a casual for saying it this way. But if you look at it almost like Madden, right? You have your normal, your star, your superstar, and your X factor. Dude, I think they got, at the very least, I think they got 3 X factors. I think that Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and then Jermaine Johnson, I think has that potential. If not, Breece Hall is an absolute stud. Maybe this is my Buckeye bias, but I've watched Jeremy Ruckert for a long time here. He's way, way better than people think he is. Trust me. I think they are fantastic. But like you said, when it comes to year 2 of Zach Wilson, he struggled last year. He had a lot of turnovers. As far as I'm aware of, they've not drastically rebuilt that offensive line. A lot of those early picks went to skill position players. So I think the Browns do get the win here. Now, if they played the Jets week 15, then I would be kind of like, okay, this is not a guaranteed win by any means. But when you have an offensive line that's still rebuilding, and you have a second-year quarterback in the second game, first home game for the Browns, I think it's a Browns win.
Yeah. And again, this is no disrespect to the Jets. I really love what they did in the offseason. I think they're a great football team. But when it's a young team, week 2, it's still really early in the season. You can't afford to lose this game, especially if you have championship aspirations as the Browns do. So again, I'm going to double down. I really do believe that the Browns will win this one, and I believe they should. If they lose it, it's either going to be because Zach Wilson took leaps and bounds of jumps this offseason, or it's going to be because the Browns just didn't show up. So, again, nothing against the Jets. Browns should win this one. Week 3, we've got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. For me, listen, they swept us last year. After we finally thought with the playoff win that, this was going to be our time, they swept us, and I still am very angry about how everything went down with them. They're going to either have Mitch Trubisky or they're going to have Kenny Pickett there. I will say this: if we do not win our home game week 3, whoever it is, a quarterback, again, whether it's, Jacoby Brissett, whether it's Deshaun Watson, no disrespect to the Steelers. Obviously, us here, we kind of have to respect them just because they've kicked our ass for so many years. If they don't come out and they don't win that game, I will be very upset because, what they did last year to us, and the fact that we had, and we still have a roster that is a lot more talented than theirs, we should not be losing this football game. I think that, especially with a young quarterback, whether it's Trubisky or Pickett in a new offense, this early in the season, you got to get this win. You have to. Again, even if you have championship aspirations. I will say, if we do lose, I won't be happy, but also at the same token, it's the Steelers. Like they always perform, if they're not one of the top teams in the league, they're usually in the top half. So, I just don't want to see TJ Watt getting 4 sacks against us. I don't want to see any of that. Listen, if it comes down to it where, Mitch Trubisky leads them on a TD drive with 5 seconds left on the clock, okay, I can at least live with that because I knew that we were close. If they blow us out, or if it's not a competitive game heading into the fourth quarter, I will have a lot of question marks about the team personally. But with that being said, I do think the Browns will win just because I think that, the Steelers don't have a great secondary, in my opinion. I think they've got Minka Fitzpatrick, who's an excellent player. But the rest of the secondary, there's a lot of question marks. They lost Stephon Tuitt on the D line. Their team's getting older. They got a young quarterback. They don't have Ben for the first time in forever. New offense. I think they're going to have a feeling out stage. I think for them, when you get past week 8 for them, I think that's when they're going to finally start to click. But early in the season, I think they're going to hit some rust. I don't think that they're going to be as good. So I expect the Browns to win that game. So what do you think of Derek?
Yeah, I think it's more so that it's the early part of the year. The Steelers are a great team, just about every season, even though, even if they're not like the great of the great, they're still a very competitive team no matter who they play for the most part. I think that the addition of Miles Jack is going to be absolutely huge for them. I think they've had a really good draft, but the quarterback position, as we know, is clearly the most important. And I think Mitchell Trubisky is a better quarterback than people think, but I don't think he's somebody who is going to be able to step in immediately and succeed at a high level. So, given that this is week 3, regardless of who's playing, whether if it's Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, or even Mason Rudolph for that matter, I just don't see the Steelers early on being able to kind of kick things off at a high level. Kind of like if you remember a couple of years ago, I want to say they started off like 11-0 and then just kind of dipped off really quick.
Yeah, that was the year that we beat them in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, I could also see, or I should say, I could almost see the Steelers doing kind of reverse of that. Maybe not as much, not winning 11 games straight, but starting off really, really bad and then really picking it up to being a more competitive team, maybe just above 500, possibly just below 500, but they will be competitive. I just don't think early on in the season they're going to be able to pull things together real quick. I think they have some of a feeling out to do.
Yeah, I can get behind that as well. Yeah, and again, one last thing I'll say about that game with it's the fact that the Steelers swept us last year when they really were not that amazing, not that special. The Browns just, I mean, the collapse of last year, I want to leave it in the past, but this is a game where you have to kind of remember that and you have to come out and you got to fight with pride and you got to try to bury them because they're a rival and they embarrassed you last year. You got to come out and bury them. So, uh, week 4, we are going to be traveling to Atlanta. And let me just say this right now. This, under any circumstance, cannot be a loss. This Falcons team, like, they are not good. I know they've got some young talent with Kyle Pitts. They drafted Drake London. They've got AJ Terrell on defense, Grady Jarrett. But outside of that, that's about it. Like they are not a cerebral team. They are not good. If they get above 5 wins this year, then Arthur Smith, their head coach, outdid himself because they are not a talented team. I think that this game should be a game where come the fourth quarter, we should be looking at resting some of our starters. That's what it, in my opinion, that's what this game should be. No matter who's playing, whether it's Deshaun or Jacoby, we should be winning this game without a shadow of a doubt. We're the much, much, much better team. I don't trust Marcus Mariota as their quarterback 1. In my opinion, it's a team that's clearly tanking. You can't lose. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I hate to come out and say 4-0 to start the year because obviously that's massive. I mean, we're talking about Jacoby Brissett even being the starter. But listen, Falcons fans, be mad at me. I don't care. Drake London sucks, and you're going to realize it sooner than later. He's not a good receiver. He's a number 2 at best. I will stand on that. Come at me. I don't care. He's not a good receiver, and he's not a good receiver on a bad team. It's not like they have a ton of help there. Yes, Kyle Pitts is incredible. I get that. But look at it this way, okay? Falcons fans, before you get mad at me, just go into my brain here for a second. You have a team right now with a quarterbacks, too, and Marcus Mariota, who's had a lot of injuries. When he's played, sure, he's shown flashes, but is he reliable to be your starter? I don't think so, me personally. Secondly, Desmond Ritter, I think, has a ton of talent. I think he's very raw. He's not somebody who you want to play day one throwing NFL passes. Absolutely not. Running back wise, I want to say they drafted somebody, but they also lost what's his name?
Mike
Yep,
Davis.
who was really reliable. Right? They lost him, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I think he went to Baltimore actually.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I know, right? Like
Well,
they need more running backs. Yeah.
you're just not a team right now that's ready to compete. And I know that's hard because, way back when it was Watson watch, Falcons fans were like, "Oh, we're going to be, playoff contenders with Deshaun Watson." Well, yeah, I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. Clearly, he is when he's at least when he was last playing, but he's not a miracle worker. I mean, look at the stats he put up, with the Texans. He had really good numbers. But if you ask any Texans fans, if Deshaun Watson, and I should say any unbiased Texans fans, if Deshaun Watson was the reason what they lost in that season where they won like 4 games, it wasn't him, and I know I didn't watch every game, but looking back, he made a lot of plays. He did his job. So the Falcons, you just got to accept it. You're in a rebuild. Matt Ryan wanted out. You're going to struggle. It's just what it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I mean they have Pro Bowl talent on the roster, but the Pro Bowl talent's just not there yet. I mean, the same goes with us a few seasons back with Miles, with Denzel, with a lot of guys that were still young guys that were growing, that were getting better. They needed to develop into that Pro Bowl talent, and now they are, and now we're in a much better position. So I think the Falcons are still they're the beginning stages of their rebuild. I think that they're a couple years away from starting to compete again. I just think that this game, like I said, has to be a win for us. Has to be a win. Moving on to Week 5 against the Chargers. Listen, for me personally, it's going to come down to if Deshaun's playing or not. If Deshaun's playing, I think it's going to be a close game. I think we could win. They're a team that in my opinion, are on the same tier as us when it comes to talent. I really like the construction of their team. I love the additions that they made in the offseason with going out getting Khalil Mack as well as JC Jackson. Uh, they are very, very talented. They've got Rashawn Slater protecting Justin Herbert. They've got Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Like they are just as loaded as us, if not more loaded. You could argue it, So this game, even with Deshaun, would be a close one. So for that reason, I'm just going to come out and say I think this is going to be the first L of the season. I think that when it comes to the Chargers, Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. I think that he is. I want to say he's for sure top 10. I can't think of the list in my mind right now. But he's a super young quarterback, super talented. The roster around him is just as talented. As long as if they don't suffer any major injuries, they should come into that one expecting to win, especially if Deshaun's not there. And if Deshaun is there, then we can expect arguably a potential game of the year candidate. I think that it's going to be a good game. I do think that the Chargers will pull away. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. I think regardless of who's your starting quarterback, this one, in my opinion, is a loss. Yes, we were very, very competitive with them last year, but they also added, another great corner in JC Jackson. They got more talent in the draft. They got, more in free agency. And it's at this point, it's just kind of like, okay, you got to look at it from the perspective of where are they going to be at? Because it's like Asante Samuel Jr., I should say, Jr., was very, very good last year as a corner for for the Chargers, and he's coming into year 2. Like I said, you add that talent there with JC Jackson as well as more. So I mean,
Derwin James, we didn't even mention him.
and he's coming back, and it's just kind of like I really don't know. I think the fact that it's week 5 kind of changes things for me, because if this was later on in the year, it's gonna be a massive, massive just brawl in that division. So kind of like the same thing with the Browns. I mean, if it was later on in the year, I don't know, but at this point, I think they're going to come out on fire. I think they are going to be very, very effective, especially early on in the year. And I think the Browns, regardless, whether if it's Deshaun, which it probably won't be, whether if it's Jacoby, I just don't see it. I can't. I will be very shocked and happy if we can pull out a win. It's the NFL, crazy things happen every week, but just kind of looking at it where we're at now, I can't see it personally.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with you there. If we have Deshaun, I would say there's I'd say it's about 60-40 in their favor still, just because Deshaun's first year here, new offense, plus he's likely going to be coming off of a suspension if that's his first game, if he's even there. So it's tough. It's tough with that one. But I will say if Deshaun's not there, I don't see us winning at all. Then we got next week, week 6 against the New England Patriots. Listen, I think the Patriots are getting a lot of slack for their offseason. Cole Strange was definitely not a great first round pick. I think we can all agree on that one. Their offseason, they didn't add a lot. I don't like what they did in the offseason, but it's still a Bill Belichick ran team and a Bill Belichick defense. Unless if they end up, how do I put this? Unless if we end up having Deshaun, I think it's a loss. I think that if it's Jacoby Brissett, I think that Bill Belichick will be able to do enough to mobilize Jacoby. And I mean, they didn't let us run it on them last year. Mac Jones was great for them. I think that they're going to pull it out. I think that it's going to be a close game, in my opinion, but I think that they're going to pull it out. I think this is going to be a second straight loss for us.
Yeah, I kind of see it similar to you. I think the Patriots, they're probably the most interesting team every year. I mean, because everybody
Yeah.
thought last year they were going to struggle because with Cam Newton they struggled, but Mac Jones, he he was really, really good. And I don't know if it's because of that Patriot style offense. The big factor to me is McDaniels now being gone. What
Yeah.
happens with that offense? So I'm gonna mark it down as a W, but again, I would not be surprised if the Browns, lose, especially if it's Jacoby, because look at how Bill Belichick just abused the Browns offense last
Yeah.
season. So the more I talk, I'm kind of thinking it's an L, but I'm going to write it down as a W and kind of move on. But I think that will be very, very competitive. I will say that. I think it's a touchdown, field goal type of game.
Yeah. If Deshaun's there, I'll feel a lot better about our chances.
Yeah.
But and that's the hard part with predicting the round season is we don't know for sure about Deshaun's suspension. But at this point, we might as well just say our predictions, just because I mean, who knows when we're going to get that announcement. So, I think it's definitely going to be a close game. And again, if it's Jacoby back there, there's a chance that the score ends like 10-7 or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
dude. That's the Patriots offense. I don't know how to explain it. It's just weird like that.
or honestly, knowing our luck, we'll lose 10-9, because Cade York gets 3 field goals, So
It
knowing our
wouldn't
luck.
surprise me. It really wouldn't.
No, but all right. And then week 7, we are going to be traveling to Maryland, playing the Baltimore Ravens in division rival. This one's going to be very interesting for me because I think we could beat them without Deshaun, I think that it will be a lot harder, especially if they're going to have everybody healthy. That's the big question for that is can they keep everybody healthy? Because if they can, then I'm looking at this game and I'm saying without Deshaun, yikes. With Deshaun, I'm confident because last year felt like it was the first year where we really contained Lamar Jackson. And as long as if we've got Jadeveon Clowney, and as long as if we've got Myles Garrett, and as long as we have JOK, if we have those three guys available for that game, I will feel confident that we'll be able to limit Lamar on the ground. And then it comes down to the aerial game. And I really like our secondary matched up against our receiving core. Only one that has a question mark for me is Mark Andrews. That's the only one. Everything else, I'm feeling pretty confident about that. Their defense, it's hard to predict with their defense because they had so many injuries last year. Like it's a hard thing to predict about with the Baltimore Ravens this year. Are the corners that got hurt going to project that coming back the players they once were, or are their injuries going to affect them? It's a really hard team to predict this year. And, assuming that they come back 100% to what they were, man, this is going to be another really close game with Deshaun playing. Without Deshaun, I would give the Ravens the edge. Personally, oh man, I'm just going to come out and say that the Browns lose it. I think that it's 3 straight L's. I think that, odds are Deshaun's not playing this game. If he is, I'd feel better about our chances, but I still think that the Ravens team with Lamar Jackson, I think people forget just how good Lamar Jackson is because of the way that the season ended for the Ravens last year. I mean, there were injuries falling around all over him, and he still found ways to win when he was healthy. I mean, every single game that he was in, he was playing pretty well with guys that, I mean, his running back core, like 3 years ago would have been fantastic, but for the last year it was terrible. So I'm going to give it to the Ravens. I'm going to say that the Ravens take that one.
Yeah, it's as much as I hate to say it, it's the Baltimore Ravens, and shout out to my boy JC, that frog looking clown. He made this analogy of the Baltimore Ravens are trying to do what the Cleveland Cavaliers did this past season, where a lot of teams in the NBA don't like to throw out a bunch of big guys. It's kind of an old school type, offense and, transition and everything like that. The Ravens are almost doing a similar thing. They're basically saying, nah, we don't really need receivers. We're going to stick with what we believe is best for Lamar Jackson, which is the tight ends, which he's most effective with. They drafted 2, and it's just it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, they bolstered that offensive line with a couple great pieces. One in Tyler Linderbaum, who's going to be an absolute stud day one. Running backs are coming back this year. How do they rebound? Does Lamar even play? Is he going to hold out? What's going to happen there? I don't know. But I just think the way the Ravens are built, if the Browns don't have Deshaun Watson, I can't see us winning. I think it could be competitive. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I think the offense that the Browns need against the Ravens, you're going to have to spread things out, and you're going to have to, kind of keep that Ravens secondary and the defense as a whole outside of playing up in the box, because I think without Deshaun, again, I talked about Jacoby and he's better than people think, but he's obviously not the same quarterback by any means. And I think at least Deshaun, you have kind of that capability to stretch the field a lot more than Jacoby can. So when you're playing a team like the Ravens with the defense that they have, I don't know. I don't see it, but I'll talk about that second game though. That's when we'll get you back.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but this one's also in Baltimore, and it does matter. It does matter. Yeah. It's in Baltimore. They are pretty good at home, especially when Lamar's playing. So I think it's safe to assume they're going to snag that one. All right. So week 8, it's the Halloween game versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Looks like it's a what's that? A Sunday night football game. Ooh. So week 8,
Is it
And
Sunday night or Thursday night?
oh no, it's Monday night actually.
Oh,
My
Monday
apologies.
night. I was gonna
Ooh,
say I didn't think we had a Sunday night.
Monday. All right. All right. Nice, nice, nice. So we got a Monday night football game against the Cincinnati Bengals, week 8. Oh, man, this one's tough to predict. For me, this is 100%. If Deshaun plays, I think we win. If Deshaun doesn't play, I think we lose. Because I think this game is, I mean, the Bengals got their offensive line improved. It went from, for me personally, it went from a D level offensive line to like a B to B plus offensive line. And so, when I look at that and I say, right, you got Joe Burrow as well, Jamar Chase. Only way I don't see them being as good as they were last year is if they hit a random sophomore slump, which I mean isn't completely like it's not something we haven't ever seen before. But I just wouldn't see that as likely, especially with the talent that Joe Burrow has shown to possess. Man, this is going to be tough. It's a home game, Monday night game. There's going to be a lot of energy in the stadium. Stadium's going to be rocking. I could see us pulling it out, but I could see us losing this. I think it's going to depend on Deshaun. Man, it's a tough one to predict. I'll come out and I'll say that, you know what? The Browns, they've had really good luck against the Bengals over the past several years. If Jacoby can play to the level that Baker's played against the Bengals, I think we could win this one. And I'm gonna predict the win here. I think when you have 3 straight losses, you have a Monday night football game at home. The crowd's pumped. They're excited for the game. Lots on the line. It almost feels like a must win during that time in the season. I think the Browns pull it out. I think that they're going to come away with the dub. I guess but it's close and it's so close and it's so tough. And man, yeah, it's hard to predict and it's hard to really commit to a decision. So, what are you thinking, Derek?
Well, I wish normally I'm pretty optimistic, but I'll say this for the Bengals. The Browns defense, outside of Baltimore with our linebackers, when you look at the rest of the team, what we're doing at corner, safety, and the defensive line, I think we're built to stop the Bengals, but I just don't see it with Jacoby. I think in order to match the Cincinnati Bengals, you're going to have to be able to go back and forth in the air. And I don't think the Bengals even have a great secondary, but when you bring in a guy, why can't I remember his name?
Daxton Hill?
Daxton Hill. When you bring in a guy like Daxton Hill who has that versatility to play in the nickel and also drop back in that safety position, I think that's going to kind of hinder some things for the Browns. But I would say I'm going to go with the Bengals for this one, just because I think the Browns are going to struggle early, against Cincinnati. I think they're going to get up early and kind of force Jacoby to really play that, not hero ball, but I mean, Baker Mayfield thinks that the Cincinnati Bengals are the Texas Longhorns. I cannot explain it. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of Joe Burrow or what, but he hates Cincinnati, and I hate Cincinnati too, to an extent. I wish he would hate the Steelers and the Ravens more in his time in Cleveland, but it is what it is. I got to give it to Cincinnati with the first one. It's unfortunate, but I think later on in the year, you get guys like Emerson more up to speed, hopefully at that time. Maybe Perrion is more ready to take a bigger role by then. I like us in the second game. I know that's kind of a spoiler, but I just think this first one, it might be a little tough for the Browns.
Yeah. Man, I think, yeah, it's going to be a close one. And another interesting note, I wonder if they're going to have Jesse Bates because he's going to be holding out. He is holding out because of his contract and he wants an extension. He said he's not going to play under the tag. Are they going to move him is a big question. I think if they do move him, he probably will go to Philly. I don't know what Cincinnati would get in return. That would really help because Philly doesn't really have good safeties. So, man, that would be a huge factor for me personally. I think if Jesse Bates is there, Man, it makes it a lot harder to beat him through the air. But I could see us beating him if he's not there. A lot easier, I should say. So,
Yeah.
all right. So week 9 is the bye week. It's a really good, really good bye week in my opinion. Right smack dab in the middle of the season. It's always beneficial when it's right in the middle of the season. Get the rest, be able to analyze your first half of the year, first 8 games before you go into the back 9. Just it's a great spot for it. I think Kevin Stefanski talked about how he feels as though it's a much better spot than last year, which of course was I think we had a bye week 4 weeks before the end of the season, which was not really helpful. So I think it's a good spot to have the bye week, and then it's a great transition into week 10 versus the Miami Dolphins, a team that has a lot of hype coming into this year. Made some good moves. They obviously got Tyreek Hill.
Shout out to Tuanon. Have you seen that?
No, I have not.
Oh my
Tuanon?
gosh.
It's like QAnon, but Tua?
It's let's just say it like this. Dolphins fans are kind of wild, and it's basically the Baker Wars just over Tua. Times maybe 10. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I can't even imagine that type of stress, but
oh yeah.
But yeah, no, so the Dolphins, they had a good offseason. I like their moves. All in all, though, I do think, listen, I think now that we're past this week 9 bye week, the likelihood Deshaun Watson of playing is now better, in my opinion. I think, he's looking at anywhere from 8 to a year suspension, in my personal opinion. But I think the odds of him playing from this point on are much greater. So I almost want to lean more towards the fact that we'll probably have Deshaun for these games. So against Miami, if we have Deshaun, I expect this to be a win. Without Deshaun, I think it's going to be a very, very close one, and it's going to be tough to call. But I would still expect us to come away with the win, in my opinion. I think our defense is a lot more talented than theirs, in my opinion. I do like their cornerback room, but I do think our defensive line is better. I don't really like their linebacking room. It's one of the worst in the league. I got to say, I would pick us in this game. I'm giving the Browns the dub here. I mean, do you disagree with anything I said there?
Not at all. I completely agree. I think the Dolphins have potential, and Dolphins fans come at me all you want. Tua sucks, but it's also not Tua's fault. I don't think he sucks as a player. It's his. It's just the injuries. I mean, they've racked up. He's in a bad spot in Miami, in my opinion, right now. And he's maybe just not an NFL starting quarterback. I mean, there's plenty of fantastic college quarterbacks who come out and just can't do it at the next level. So I think the Browns get the win here.
Yeah. About Tua, I'll say this. I think that he's a good quarterback, in my opinion. I like him. I think he has a lot of potential. I just think that the Dolphins, I don't like what they've done to surround him. I think that when you have a quarterback with the injury history that he has, you have to protect him better. And I just don't think they have. Honestly, like the Dolphins' offensive line last year was one of the worst in football. And, it's like, how do you expect a young QB to grow and to learn and to improve behind an offensive line that can't keep him upright for more than 3 seconds? I think that the situation, I think it stunted his growth, stunted his development. I think that unless if he has a great year this year, they're probably going to move on from him, and they're probably going to go after Lamar if Lamar hasn't signed an extension yet. They're probably going to target a few quarterbacks, maybe even in the draft. Who knows if Tua doesn't have a great year? I like Tua. I think he can succeed in the NFL, but probably just not in Miami unless he has a great year this year. And then if he does, then, well, we can both shut up because, you clearly proved us wrong. So week 11, it's going to be against the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo. I'll make this pretty short. I know that there's a higher likelihood that Deshaun is playing here. Man, Buffalo is a tough team to beat. They are a tough team to beat. And especially when you're playing them in Buffalo. it's a close one to call, especially if we were to have Deshaun for this game. I'm going to give the edge to the Bills, though, just because their defense has been together for a while. They just added Von Miller. The offense has been together for a little bit as well. Our offense is going to be a newer offense with not as great chemistry. So I'm just going to give the slight edge to the Bills there. If it's Jacoby Brissett playing, there's no doubt in my mind the Bills are going to take that game. But if Deshaun's there, I think there's a chance. I think there's a solid chance that the Browns would take that one. But I can't deny the player that Josh Allen is. He's omega talented, and you got to be really good to beat him. I think our defense will be there. I just got questions about the offense. So I guess, what do you think about Buffalo?
Browns win.
Whoa.
If they have Deshaun Watson, the Browns win. I think with Jacoby, it's obviously you got to give the edge to Buffalo, but the Bills are overrated. I'm going to say it. I know they're a great team, but they're being talked about as by far the best team in the NFL by some people. And to me, it's just laughable. I think the Bills are a really good team, but they have their limitations. They're a team that have to have specific things to click, in my opinion, in order to be successful. They have to be able to spread the ball around and have that, just things spread out in general. They got to be able to attack the field every different spot. And that's the best part about Josh Allen. He's got that arm to do that, but matched up against this Browns secondary, I don't think you're going to have that luxury, buddy. You look at the Browns defensive line, adding back Jadeveon Clowney. We've talked about the depth. At this point, I'm expecting Perrion to be a certified starter and a good one at that. I don't see it for Buffalo. I'm sorry. I just don't. So if the Browns have Deshaun Watson, I'm going to give them the win here. But if it's Jacoby, I think we'll still be competitive. I'm sorry. I just don't think that the Bills match up the best against the Cleveland Browns. I just don't. We have too much speed, too much versatility. And I guess, that would force the Bills to kind of do some different things. So I don't think this is a Bills Chiefs game where you're just going to be back and forth the entire time. I think the Bills will struggle to score against the Cleveland Browns. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see it for Buffalo.
I mean, that's a bold take, but hey, listen, say it with your chest, man. I think, man, I think that the Bills, they're a very, very good team. I think they've got a lot of talent, and I just trust Josh Allen to make the plays. I just do. I think that he's incredibly talented. I think that the Bills matched up better. If the Bills didn't give up with 14 seconds the field goal, they probably match up better than the Bengals in my opinion, and they probably get to the Super Bowl. But man, like, I just think they're a Super Bowl caliber team, and it's going to take a lot to beat them. So I'm not saying that you're completely wrong. I think that there's a chance that the Browns do pull out, and the secondary balls out, the defensive line gets there. I'm not bold enough to come out with that take. So
hey, you got to look at it like this. Look at the Bills the last couple years. They always struggle at times that seem completely random. And I think it's more matchup specific. And that's why I think the Browns are going to really surprise a lot of people. When you look at the Browns schedule, you look at the Chargers, the Bucks, the Bills, trying to think the other top tier teams we play. I think our best chance to win one of those games is against Buffalo. That's just my opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, right straight after the Buffalo Bills, we get Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Wow, two powerhouses right back to back. Man, I have a tough time ever betting against Tom Brady. Especially, I think Tom Brady is the type of guy where he would pretty much make the Browns defensive line almost like what's the word I want to say? Like it almost doesn't matter just because he loves to get the
A
ball out of his hand
non-factor.
quick.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. A non-factor. And whenever you can make Myles Garrett a non-factor, we've seen the Steelers do it a bunch of times to us before where they've just said, all right, we're just going to get the ball out of our hands quick, make sure that Myles is just not going to impact the game. Whenever you get that, it's, it makes it that way. It's a lot harder for the defense to cope. And with somebody like Tom Brady with the Hall of Fame acumen, the legendary elite accuracy, the decisions he makes are fantastic. They still have a lot of elite weapons there in Tampa. The defense is still there. It's still good. If
Plus
Deshaun's
Akeem
there,
Hicks. Are you
yeah,
kidding me?
yeah. I think that with Deshaun there, it's quite literally a coin toss, and it comes down to last minute. If Deshaun isn't there, it's an easy Tampa win. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give this one to Tampa. I'm not gonna bet against Tom Brady. I'm not going to. So I I feel so indifferent about it. But how do you think I should feel there?
Yeah, I think it's Tampa either way, if it's Deshaun or Jacoby. But I'll say this, save this clip. I could look like an absolute dumbass, but the biggest factor in this game for the Cleveland Browns will not be Myles Garrett. It won't be Jadeveon Clowney. It won't be Deshaun Watson. It won't be Nick Chubb. It'll be Perrion Winfrey. And here's why. Tom Brady, throughout his entire career, has always been a quarterback that only struggles if you can get up in his faith. Jeez, going to church. Man, we get up in his face in the middle of the pocket. The Cleveland Browns have not had anybody in a long time who has the potential to become a dominant pass rusher interiorly. Perrion Winfrey at this point in the season, I think could be that guy. Now, he's not an every down defensive tackle, but if you bring him in on passing downs and he can successfully get some pass rush and force Brady to move around, a little bit different, try to get him to move to one side versus actually stepping up in the middle, the Browns will be very, very competitive. Just historically, that has always been it for Tom Brady. Look at Fletcher Cox in the Super Bowl against the Eagles for the Patriots. I mean, it's just what it's always been. So that's a lot to ask, and that's a lot to put on your rookie defensive tackle. But I believe he has the potential to be that good to where he can make an impact. Now, they have a really good offensive line, and like you said, Brady gets that ball out quick, but the Browns' defensive line will make plays against Tom Brady and that Bucs offense.
Yeah, I think they will too. I just don't think it's going to be as big of a factor against other teams. I think that secondary is going to be good enough where I think Myles or Jadeveon or somebody's going to get home at least a few times, like at least 2 times, I'd say. But man, it's really hard to bet against Tom Brady. I thought the player you were going to say is JOK because I think that game, JOK, man, I feel like that's the type of game where, the Bucs are going to look to take control of the middle of the field in quick passing. So, man, JOK in that spy role almost like in a zone coverage type role right in the middle of the field, he could have a field day. And we know how good he is in run stopping too. So,
I like
that could
where
be a
your
game for
head's
him.
at. I like
But
where your head's at, but I almost see it more as Grant Delpit.
Delpit could do that. Yeah, I could
playing
see that.
more so up in the box to where he can kind of flood the middle.
That's going to be a really interesting game. I want to see how Joe Woods plays that game because that, for me, if Joe Woods can get it right against Tom Brady, then the Browns have a really good shot, especially if Deshaun's there. And I'd almost say I'd favor it, but it's going to, I mean, I just don't like betting against Tom. It's just me, though.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
All right. And then next week, week 13, we've got the Deshaun Watson Revenge Tour against the Houston Texans. And all respect to the Houston Texans. They've got a good young core that they're building up. In my opinion, they had a solid draft. They're just not ready to win now. Davis Mills showed some promise year one, but I just don't see him being good enough, especially against this Browns defense. I think that one of the more athletic secondaries in the league. One of the best defensive lines in the league. Oh, and you also have the Jadeveon Clowney revenge tour too. So there you go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that storyline too. Jeez. I just think that the Browns are just, this is a game where again they've got to win. They've got to win it. I don't see like if the Browns lose this game, I mean it's catastrophic to the season in my opinion. Like because you're gonna be without Deshaun. We don't know how long, but you're gonna be without him. You got to win your games that you're favored to win. And even with Jacoby Brissett here, man, you've really got to win this one. You really got to. The team's way too talented to lose, and I think that this should be a slam dunk Browns win.
Yep, I completely agree. I think if Deshaun Watson is playing, you better wrap him up in some extra bubble wrap, not only because of the fans, but the team as well. They don't like Deshaun Watson. And for whatever, and I don't even think it's just because of, the reasons why a lot of people don't like Deshaun Watson. I think it's more so because
he requested a trade.
Yes, from the football standpoint, he feels, and I would agree with this sentiment, that they did not, as an organization, help him, really. I mean, when you look at trading away the guys that they did,
they traded DeAndre Hopkins for
a bag
not
of
even
chips.
A first-round pick. Yeah.
I mean, you can't really say that you're helping your quarterback when you do that. So the team itself probably hates him because they know that they messed up with a lot of things, and they're taking their anger really out on him, I believe. And with the fans, they got to hate him as well. I mean, you had a franchise quarterback who wanted out, and then on top of all this stuff, regardless, about what's true, what's not, who to blame, whatever, that's not the conversation here. It's just more so of a standpoint of they will make it seem like the Antichrist has come back to Houston. So
yeah, and with all the storylines around him, it's been a nightmare for them to deal with, especially a guy who didn't even want to be there. So I can understand. Absolutely. I can understand exactly how Texans fans feel about Deshaun, and I kind of sympathize with them because, man, if we were in that situation, I'd be pretty pissed at him too. Because I mean, at the end of the day, a guy who doesn't even want to be here is causing all this negative PR and negative, all this hatred towards my team, and I feel as though, I didn't do anything wrong. It's a similar thing to what the Browns are going through now, but they've just been dealing with it for much longer for a guy that didn't even want to be there. They ended up giving away. So they ended up trading away. So
you got to be mad at the organization too if you're a Texans fan, because I remember from a certain somebody who I will not name, who is not listening to this. I guarantee you she's not. I'll say it's a she. You know who you are. Your name starts with an L because you are an L. But I remember being told by you that in order for the Texans to trade Deshaun to the Browns, it was going to take Denzel Ward, JOK, Grant Delpit. I forget who else she said. I know she said Myles Garrett, but she claimed she was joking. Yeah, Kareem Hunt, like 4 or 5 first-round picks. Like I remember hearing that and being told that, oh, well, if you don't want to give that up, you don't want him. And then look at what the Browns got him for. And yes, that's probably because of a lot of the allegations and stuff that the Browns are dealing with now. But as a Texans fan, you got to imagine you probably could have gotten a little bit more. I think that's, fair to say, regardless of the situation he's in and the Browns are in and the Texans were in. If he's playing, he's worth more than that, in my opinion. So yeah, it was a lot, but I feel like if I was a Texans fan, I'd be like, well, we could have got a lot more and we didn't. So, I'll leave it at that, but the Browns should absolutely win this game, regardless of who's starting. Talent level is not even close.
Absolutely spot on. Here we go. So then we got the following week against the Cincinnati Bengals, our second game against them. It's going to be in Cincinnati. Sean, there's a better chance of Deshaun playing in this one. Man, I don't know. I just think that we really match up well against the Bengals. I do. I think that their secondary last year had a good run in the playoffs, but I think Kevin Stefanski's got that secondary under wraps, especially like I said, a huge question is going to be Jesse Bates, because if he's there, it makes things a lot harder, because he is a Pro Bowl caliber guy at the safety spot. He's elite. He's very good. You know, if he's there, this makes it more of a coin toss. But I feel like the Browns are going to sweep them this year. I think that we're going to sweep them. I don't know why. I don't think I should be this confident, but I've got respect for the Bengals. This isn't me disrespecting them. I just think we match up well against them, and I think we showed that last year. Obviously the second game was like a preseason game. Nobody really cared about it. But in that first game, I mean, they played all their starters, they played all their star players, and we really gave them a tough time. And I think that with our personnel, our secondary, I think it just matches up really well against them. I like Joey B. I like the offensive line improvements that they made. But man, I just feel like we're going to sweep them. That's my gut. Again, logically, this should be a split, likely. If not both going to the Bengals, if Jacoby isn't playing, or if Deshaun isn't playing both games. Just gut tells me we're going to win both. I think we're going to sweep them this year.
Yeah, I got the Browns to win the second one. I think I said lose the first one, I believe.
Yeah, you did.
I think just at this point in the year, the Browns, as far as like the younger pieces, will be much more up to speed, like I've kind of talked about. I think the defense is really, really, going to be gelled, barring any injuries, knock on wood. So I just think the Browns, like you said, they match up perfectly against the Bengals. And I think week not one, but the first matchup, they're going to be a little bit more of a struggle. Whereas the second one, I feel like we're going to handle them, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. And then we've got the following week, the Baltimore Ravens, our second meeting against them. And week 15, Baltimore in Cleveland. I'm going to give this one to the Browns. I think that there's a decent chance that Deshaun's back. I think that we match up really well against the Ravens, especially with JOK there. It's going to be interesting this year, though, just because I know that they're going to be committing even more to the run than they usually are, just because I think that they're going to commit to running Lamar more. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough with I really struggle with predicting the Ravens this year, because they're a team that I can see going 14-3. They're a team I can see going 3-14. Like, as crazy as that sounds, and it's just they've got so many guys that were injured last year that we don't know if they're going to return to 100%. I mean, all likelihood they will. I'm betting on they will. I don't know, man. It's just they're a tough team to predict, because most of their team I didn't even see play last year, so it's tough. But I'm going to give this one to the Browns. I think I gave the first matchup to the Ravens. I think it's going to be split. I think that's fair, especially assuming, if we can assume that Deshaun's playing, I think we'll split, especially by this point in the season. I think we're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I think we're going to play a little bit harder, but they will be too. So I don't know. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough, but I got this one as a win.
Why can't I not speak English today? This is bad. I got this one as a dominant win for your Cleveland Browns. I think what week is this?
This is week 15.
Okay, so barring a full year suspension for Deshaun, he'll play in this game. I think by this time, sorry to say this to the Ravens fans, but they have injuries every year, and I don't know. I think it's kind of a gut feeling thing. I think the Browns come out and they lay the hammer on the Ravens, especially given what happened at home last year in that war that we had. Even if it's Jacoby, I think in this game they're going to be much more prepared, much more well-rounded, and ready to take on Baltimore again in Cleveland. And I think the stars are going to come out. I think JOK is going to have a phenomenal game. I'm sitting here talking about who's going to play well in a week 15 game when the season hasn't even started, but you get what I'm saying. I think the guys that match up the best against Baltimore are really going to come out. Clowney, JOK. I wouldn't be surprised if Delpit had a game. So yeah, I like the Browns here.
Hey. All right. And then moving on from the Baltimore Ravens, we are going to be having the return of Jarvis Landry on Christmas Eve. New Orleans Saints come to town, week 16. Man, I'm going to assume Deshaun's playing. Or let me say this, it's more likely Deshaun's playing. Even if he's not, I still like our odds at this one. I think that the Saints, it's so hard to predict this game because, like, I think James Winston, I think he gets a lot more slack because last year before he got hurt, he actually was performing pretty well. I like their defense. Their defense is really solid. They got Michael Thomas coming back from injury. They've got a lot of question marks for me as far as, like, how does everything piece together? They're a team that I could see being really good, similar with the Baltimore Ravens, where they could either be really good or they could suck because they also don't have, oh gosh, what's the coach that just left? I'm losing my mind. Sean Payton?
Peyton.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. But yeah, especially because they don't have him this year. Man, it's gonna be tough to predict them this year. So for that reason, I'm gonna say a Browns dub. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust their new coaching regime. And when you've had stability for such a long time under a guy like Sean Payton, it's when changes come, I don't know how all the players are going to react to it. And I don't know if they're going to get better because of it. Yeah, man, it's a really tough one to predict. I'm just going to go with my gut and say the Browns pulled out the dub here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the Saints are going to be really, really good as far as the receiving core. Michael Thomas coming back. They add Chris Olave, um, Jarvis Landry. Now, I just think the Saints are going to be really, really good offensively in the receiver room. Same thing goes there with Alvin Kamara, but I just think defensively, the Browns are going to be able to hold them enough to where the Browns offense can match up well against the Saints defense. That's just my opinion, but it could be a really close game. I wouldn't be surprised. But again, like I said earlier, if you boo Deshaun, if you boo Jarvis Landry when he comes back to Cleveland, you're an asshole. And that's all
Yeah,
I got to say on that.
I agree with that. I hope he gets met with applause. He's been great here. Other reasoning for it could also be because it's a late December game. It's going to be cold in Cleveland. I think that the Browns have the advantage against the team from the South. So I think that, especially with our run game, our experience in cold weather games, I think that it's going to pull through for us. So, uh, real quick, actually, on the side, did you want to restart another one or did you want to finish this up quickly?
No, let's just finish this one up.
All right. Then we got week 17. It's January 1st, start of the new year against the Washington Commanders. I liked the Commanders team as far as the construction. I think their defense is good. Last year didn't show that it was good. They need to get back on track. The offense, I'm not a big Carson Wentz guy. I think he throws untimely interceptions. You can't trust him. For that reason, I'm going to say the Browns pull up the dub here. I just think that when it comes to Carson Wentz, I think that we're going to get pressure on him, and I think he's going to throw a couple dumb interceptions. And I think we're going to take advantage. So I got the Browns dub here. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, there's already reports coming out from the Commanders there that it's not looking hot for their offense. I just think the Browns possibly even dominate. I mean, depending on obviously where the season goes and everything like that. I see this being a really, really good game for the Browns. So we'll see.
Okay, so then we got week 18 at Pittsburgh, and this is the final week of the season. So right now, for me personally, I believe I've got the Browns losing 5 games. They're coming into this game 11-5. I think they might sit a couple starters if they do end up getting playoffs. And because it's in Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh. I just think that we're going to split with them. I think that Pittsburgh's going to take the win here. And I think we're already in a playoff position. I don't know as though the standings change much with a win or a loss with us. So I think we're happy to sit our most valuable players, getting ready for the playoffs. So I think Pittsburgh gets the dub here.
Yeah, well, no, not no to be disrespectful. That came off wrong.
No, you're
I
fine.
I just think the Browns at this point, depending on where we're at in the season, I just think the Browns have more firepower. I don't know what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett as far as when he starts, when he doesn't. But I just think the Browns are going to, unfortunately for Pittsburgh, sweep the Steelers this year. I think their years to kind of come back and shine again are in the next 2 years. I just don't see it this year. I think they just got too much right now to kind of handle and get back up to speed. So that's just my opinion.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, like I was just talking about, my record prediction right now it sits at 11-6. I don't remember yours off the top of my head. I think yours is around that, although I think you might have given them a couple games more. I think you got them at 12-5 or 13-4. I can't remember,
I think it's
but
12-5.
12-5. Okay. Yeah. So we're in the same ballpark. You know, the Deshaun Watson thing is gonna impact a lot of this. There's a lot of games in here where, without Deshaun, it makes the games either a lot harder or it makes them almost flat out unwinnable. So for me, the records, it's going to be anywhere between 8-9 and 13-4. I think that's the floor and ceiling, but time will tell. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, it's all going to depend on what happens with Watson, and injuries happen, hopefully not, but it's just the reality of the season. So I think obviously this is a really, really early look into the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. So, take everything we say here with a grain of salt. Things change constantly. So we will see. But um, just kind of wrapping up the episode here. Tristan, you got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just go Browns. And next episode, what we're probably going to be looking at. Oh, gee, I'm losing my mind. What's going to be the next episode? I'm thinking, ranking position groups. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go through the AFC North, kind of rank where we feel the Browns sit at each position group, kind of do an in-depth breakdown of all the other teams in the division, including Cincy, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. We're going to go through it all. It's going to be a good episode. So thank you for tuning into this one, and I'll
Yep.
let you take us out there.
Yep. So before we wrap up here, just a reminder, Browns After Dark always Sundays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. That is on Twitter. Be sure to follow us at Browns After Dark on Twitter. That will be in the description. And then also, I meant to announce this at the beginning, but I'll throw in a clip there. Excited to now be partnered with Offside Sports Network. So that is a very, very big and exciting announcement for me, and also Browns After Dark is partnering with them as well. So nothing is really changing, just good things to come. You're going to hopefully see merch come out for me down the road, and also you can get your Browns After Dark merch. We have a crew neck, a regular t-shirt, and a sweatshirt out right now. So I'll try to link everything in the description. So just be sure to go down and look and find that if you are interested. As always, give me a follow on Twitter, give Tristan a follow on Twitter, as well as After Dark and offside. So with that being said, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you agree with? What do you not? Call us an asshole. We don't care. Be sure to like, and if you really like it, subscribe. We have a couple of these podcasts out now. We're really getting rolling with this. So as the season, gets closer, only more good things to come. So with that being said, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.